wonder, well, could you help me place this call?
Hello there, welcome to my channel. My name is Doug and I'm back with another fountain pen review. Happy New Year to all you pen geeks out there. I call you geeks because you wouldn't be watching otherwise, now would you? I thought not. I want to remind you that you have until midnight tonight, Pacific Standard Time, to add a comment to my 3,000 subscriber giveaway video to enter the draw to win this Jinhao 997 fountain pen. No, don't comment here, dumbass.
The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
On the other video, I'll link it for you in the description. Sheesh.
Where did you get that dress? It's awful, and those shoes and that coat. Jeez.
It was a little more than a year ago when I got my first Wing Sung 699. This one. Or was it this one? It doesn't matter, you can't tell. The Wing Sung 699 vacuum filler in this lovely translucent blue with gold trim. And now I have a second one that is almost identical. This one. It's a piston filler. Anywho, one of these. I thought it would be interesting to see the differences and which I preferred. I was also pleased that there was an option for a medium nib because I found the fine nib on the vac filler thin and unpleasant. You know, just like some people we know. I received the piston filler mid-December and have been writing back and forth between these two pens for a while now. The results are mixed, as there are some pluses and some minuses for each pen. And the pens are mixed as well because many of the parts are interchangeable and I think I've lost track of what's what. As you'll see right now. So I just completed filming my top 10 list for 2020 and the package arrives in the mail in the moment I finish. So is this pen going to sneak into my 2020 list or does it have to wait? Let's open it up and find out. Usually it's in a cardboard box. And we got a Wing Sung package. And it's too bad the previous one wasn't in a cardboard box because it got crushed. Not sure what that does. And this is another Wing Sung medium. But this box is worth preserving. Of course, it's the Lamy look-alike. And are there any markings on this at all? Let's say anything about it. Not that I can tell. Yeah. Oh, I hear something in there. And it is silicone grease. That looks like a converter. Do not use this as a converter. And here we have the pen. This is a Wing Sung 699, but it is a piston filler. I do this for my friends that love the sound of crinkle. I love this blue and gold. This transparent blue is just gorgeous. And the pen looks identical at first glance to the vacuum filler version I reviewed last year. And so I'm going to compare these two. The piston filler versus the vacuum filler. I was less than impressed with the nib on the vacuum filler, so we'll see how well this one does. And a lovely pen. I know that this vacuum filler was very popular with people, and this piston filler probably will be too. So we'll clean out this pen and we'll do a review on it and we'll do an A/B comparison. And what I'd like to do today is go over the parts and features of this pen, show some size comparisons, some measurements, and then provide a writing sample. After the writing sample, please stay tuned as I will talk about what I like and what I don't like so much about these fountain pens. I'm also going to compare these two pens They're almost identical, and I'm going to show you their similarities and their differences. When I got, which one's which? You can't tell, I can. When I got this vac filler 699 back in November of 2019, I took the pen to pieces for my video review, and I put it back together again incorrectly. I'm going to show you a couple of clips here from that review to show you what I did and how I corrected it. So I've taken the Wingsung 699 apart, and it comes apart in many more pieces than I expected. The nib and feed came out very nicely and just unscrewed from the section. But there's a gold ring there that comes off really easily. Of course, there's the rubber O-ring there, or silicone O-ring. And then there's this ring that just butts up against this end. There's no fitting for it to sit in. I'd almost want to glue that back on again. And of course the piston comes out. The cap finial comes off, a little piece of plastic thread, and there's two pieces there. One piece that goes there, and then of course the clip goes there, and then it all screws back together again. Error. I tried it when it first came out of the box to post it, and I thought it did post. It really doesn't. Okay, let me interrupt myself. After I was editing the video, the fact that it didn't post was a bit odd. So I went back and looked carefully at the video and saw that I had actually switched that band for that band, swapped them back again, and as you can see here, it actually fits the body perfectly. It is good that a pen can come apart in pieces, but it shows you really have to watch the orientation of the various parts, because things might look symmetrical, but sometimes they're not. Both of these pens have many identical parts which are interchangeable. The caps will swap with each other. The nibs, the feeds, and the sections will also swap. The only real difference between them is the filling mechanism. But let's look at the piston filler a little bit more closely. From the top, we see a billet-shaped blue plastic finial, which is a solid rather than transparent blue. This was one of my pet peeves about the vacuum filler version. I would have liked to have seen the top and the bottom finials made out of the same beautiful transparent plastic as the rest of the pen, rather than this dull, opaque blue. I think it would look a lot more attractive on this pen. Next, we have a gold ring that has a center bead and tapers up along with the cap and holds the teardrop-shaped clip made of gold-colored metal. The clip is very springy and usable and has a Wingsung logo at the very top. The cap tapers up to a small gold ring, then there's a bit of a space, and then a larger gold cap band that has Wingsung and Made in China engraved on it. Then there's another further 4 millimeters of the cap that slightly tapers down. And then there's a small step to the barrel, again of this beautiful translucent clear blue plastic. And it's straight all the way to about here where it begins to taper. And then we have another small gold band with a center bead on it that separates the end finial, which is a blind cap piston knob that turns just like that, and the rounded end. The cap unscrews with 1.5 turns to reveal a tapering section that has a slight flare towards the number 6 size two-tone steel nib. The section is separated from the barrel with a small gold ring and is made of the same opaque blue plastic as the top and the end finials. let's take a closer look at this nib. The nib has some scroll work, the Wing Sung logo, and Wing S, and then M for medium. Now this is where I should probably explain something about swapping parts on these two pens. When I ordered this pen, I ordered a medium nib. This is one of the things that intrigued me about this pen, was that a medium nib was available. So when it arrived, I was slightly upset that not only was this not a medium nib, but it was an extra fine. So I immediately wrote to the vendor on eBay to complain that I got the wrong nib. I got an almost immediate response, which was great, with an apology, which is even better, and a promise to send out the new nib immediately. So I set about doing some nib swapping. In the same order as this pen, I bought this Wing Sung 670, which also had a medium nib. I reviewed this pen recently, and although I wasn't totally thrilled with the pen itself, the medium Wing Sung nib that was in it was juicy and smooth. So I decided to swap the nibs around. I'm getting a medium nib replacement anyway, so I might as well swap the Wing Sung 670 nib into my new Wing Sung 699 piston filler. So that's what I did. So here on the left, you see the EF extra fine Wing Sung nib that came in this pen, and the medium nib that came in this pen. And for you anal types, I did do a writing sample with the extra fine Wing Sung nib in the same ink right out of the box just for you. And as I expected, I hated the nib. Thin, dry.
Too small and dry. Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Not scratchy per se, but very needle-like. The nib and the feed are friction fit into the section and go in and out very easily. This section actually unscrews from the barrel to allow access to the ink chamber and the piston. You can clean the pen this way and add silicone grease as well. Inside the cap, we see a cap liner that is held in with a piece of stainless steel that holds the top finial and the clip and that ring together. The cap posts deeply and securely, although that cap slightly back weights the pen. However, the pen is nicely balanced and plenty long enough to write with comfortably unposted. Now to turn to the big difference between these two pens, and that is the filling systems. The end finial is the piston turning knob on the piston filler, this one, and on the vacuum filler, of course, this knob unscrews the vacuum filling rod. If you turn the piston knob on the piston filler, that piston right there moves all the way to the front as that gap opens. So there's the piston moving, and as that gap widens, it reveals a small piece of plastic with flatted sides for a wrench to unscrew and remove the piston. A Twisby wrench is too small for this, as the diameter of this is 7.5 millimeters. So you'll need a box wrench with a 7.5 millimeter throat to open this. I'm not going to do that right now. The mechanism is the same that's on this Wing Sung 618 piston filler, and I've had those apart a few times, and the mechanism works the same. And also, I don't have a 7.5 millimeter box wrench. If the piston needs cleaning or grease, I'll simply go in through the section with a Q-tip to grease the inside of that or to clean it out. The piston in the 699 works really nicely. Although it is good to add silicone grease to piston fillers like this one, this piston worked flawlessly right out of the box. Other piston fillers have issues with sticky pistons, like this Pen BBS 309, and the piston always sticks on this. A trick that I've learned from some of my friends on the Pen BBS forum, and from Chris Rapp as well, who's dealt with these pens a lot. The trick is to draw ink up into this pen and then not turn it all the way closed so that it sits out there a little bit further, and then it tends not to stick as much for some reason or another. Of course, a piston filler works by pushing the piston up and down inside the barrel by turning this knob, and then it draws up ink. The vacuum filler, however, you open this knob, which backs off the piston rod inside the pen, and then you draw the rod back. Stick the pen in the ink, and then push the rod down. Creates a vacuum, and it sucks up ink. The two filling systems are different, but they are the same in one respect, and that is in their ink capacity. This actually surprised me, as I thought the vacuum filler might actually have a larger capacity, but they're exactly the same. They each take 1.6 milliliters of ink. And I filled both using the double stroke method of pushing the piston down and back again twice to get a full fill. And that brings me to another difference between the two pens, other than their filling systems, and that is the weight. The body of the vacuum filler is 8 grams heavier at 20 grams than the body of the piston filler at 12 grams. Now that might not seem like a lot of weight, but it is perceptible and makes a difference to the writing experience. Of course, the difference is due to the metal rod that is inside this one, and this one just has plastic parts. This pen retails for $24.95 US, which is a further difference between the two pens because the vacuum filler was only $18.89 US. Now that might be because of inflation, but I think it's probably because of popularity. I bought this one back in 2019, and I received this piston filler in mid-December. Now let's look at some size comparisons. And here we are with the Wingsung 699 piston filler with a Wingsung 618 piston filler, a Pen BBS 456 vacuum filler, a Waterman Phileas, and a Pen BBS 308. Now let's look at them posted. And here are the 5 pens posted. Of course, the 618 is a hooded nib, and the rest of them are number 6 size steel. The measurements between these two pens are almost identical, so I'll show one set of measurements for both pens and highlight where they are different. Then I'll be back to do a writing sample. And we're back with the writing portion of the review. This is Clairefontaine 90 GSM paper, and this is the Wingsung .699 piston filler. And it has a medium steel nib. And the ink today is the ink I got for Christmas from my daughter and my son-in-law, and it is a Roshizuku Amairo. Let's check the wetness. This pen is very wet. Here is the swatch for the Amairo, along with some Leonardo Blue and some J. Urbain Kyanite du Nepal. First, let's look at what I wrote right out of the box. This is the Wingsung 699 piston filler with the extra fine nib. That's how wet it was. You can see the line is very, very thin. The ink is very, very dry. I was not pleased with this at all. This is the Wingsung 699 vac filler with the fine nib that I got last year. And it is definitely a fine nib. It's very wet, but it tends to go thin and then thick and then thin and then thick. So I was not all that pleased with that nib either. And of course, this medium nib I reviewed recently on my Wingsung 670, and it is very smooth and very wet. I really, really do like this nib. As to line variation, there won't be much line variation here. That's no pressure. That's a little bit more pressure, but it doesn't move very much. Very stiff. Chinese steel nib. Comparing this line to my Richard Binder chart, it comes out as 0.7 millimeters, which is a Western broad, which is a Western medium to broad, or a Japanese broad. And for our writing sample, and for some reverse writing. I remember this nib actually did very, very well. The feed is keeping up, and I'm getting a fairly thin line out of it. So another plus for that medium nib. And some quick writing. And that feed shows no signs of giving up. And for you purists out there, here is the extra fine nib, and here are some scratches from that nib. I would have to work on that, but since I never intend on writing with it, why bother? So, what do I like and what do I not like about these fountain pens? Well, first let's talk about what I didn't like about the vacuum filler. And that was simply the nib. In fact, I put this pen away uninked since that review back in November of 2019. For vacuum fillers, I've been relying on my collection of Pen BBS 456 vacuum fillers, as I feel they are quite simply the best. And when I wrote with the 699 vacuum filler again, this one, for this review, I discovered all the things that I disliked about it a year ago. This nib, oh no, it isn't this one, it's this one. This nib is thin, not very smooth, and quite splotchy. It's not a very nice writing experience. But there's one thing I like about both of these pens now, and that's the interchangeable parts. So after I removed the medium nib from the Wing Sung 670 and put it in this Wing Sung 699 piston filler, I wrote with both pens for quite a while. And in the process of using both of these pens, one with the Wing Sung 670 medium nib and the other with the original fine nib, I discovered fairly quickly that I liked the 699 vacuum filler pen, but not the nib. And I liked the nib from the 670. So I decided to swap sections. And that's what I did. So this is the piston filler. And I simply took the section off, put that pen aside, here's the pen I like, the vacuum filler. Took its section off and put it on this pen very carefully. And then put this medium nib on the vacuum filler. I'm doing that with them both full of ink. So don't do this at home, kiddies. I'm a professional.
Permit me to introduce myself. My name is Coyote. Wile E. Coyote. Genius.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mud.
And remember, mud spelled backwards is dumb.
Not bad. So now I have the vacuum filler with the medium nib and the piston filler with that fine nib. And when my medium nib replacement comes in, I will put it in this piston filler. Then I'll have them both with medium nibs. Until then, now I'm finding I like this pen the best. The simple reason I like the vacuum filler better is that I like the added heft of the extra 8 grams of the vacuum filler. And that is even though the piston filler could be slightly easier to use in filling and doesn't have a shutoff valve. Although I don't have difficulty with vacuum fillers, some people do. And it's nice that this pen is slightly transparent so you can actually see where the piston is and where the ink levels are. And now I want to say some positive things about both pens. They're both well balanced, post nicely, and are gorgeous to look at. The number 6 size steel nibs are easy to remove and swap with your favorite number 6 nib. And each of these pens has advantages and disadvantages depending on your preferences. The piston filler is lighter, if you like that. The vacuum filler is, of course, heavier, if you like that. The vacuum filler has a shutoff valve, so when it's closed like this, it closes off that section, and it's not vulnerable to burping or spitting into the cap due to temperature changes or pressure changes. And the piston filler is easier to clean without disassembly. Although I'm not thrilled with the price increase over the space of 1 year, they are still relatively inexpensive when you consider that a Pilot 823 vacuum filler is around $290 US. And this kind of looks a little bit like a Pilot 823, don't you think? I think it looks a little bit similar.
And welcome to Spot the Loony, where once again we invite you to come with us all over the world to meet all kinds of people in all kinds of places and ask you to spot the loony.
But the Pilot does have a 14-karat gold nib, if you're into those things. I doubt this vacuum filler will replace my Pen BBS 456 Amber anytime soon, but I will be writing more often than I have been in the last year with this pen, which was never. So that's an improvement. It took buying a piston filler version and a Wingsung 670 medium nib to finally make me appreciate my Wingsung 699 vacuum filler after a year of neglect. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And that just leaves it for me to say, thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.